Don't change that dial, anybody. It's time for This Week in Mormons, your weekly...
No one has a dial, Jeff. That's not a real thing. Your theme song is The Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah. Also, we're repeating. We started recording the show, actually, and we had a malfunction like 2 minutes in, so we're now striving to recapture the magic of those first 2 minutes, but we're reversing
If you
roles.
could just remember what it was like.
We're reversing roles, because the first time through, Al actually spontaneously burst into the Wicked Witch of the West.
I think of that song every now and then when like somebody will be walking down the street, and I'm like, oh no, here they come.
And Al, you're correct. There are no dials, but don't hit the pause button, everybody. Stream. Be with us.
Don't hit the close tab X.
Yeah, don't do that. Let us be heard on your airwaves and earbuds. We are here to bring you the experience
That's gonna
of
be
your week.
That should be our band name. Airwaves and earbuds. That could fly, Jeff. That could be a real thing.
Okay. I often think of great band names.
Yeah, what's the last one?
Well, I don't keep a list or anything. Unlike children's names, I don't keep a list of potential band names. So I don't know.
Muffin.
You laugh, but here, you can make fun of me because I don't have children. There's none on the horizon that I'm aware of. But I have kept a Google Doc for years of good kids' names just as I come across them or think of them, just so I don't forget someday. So I just write them down on this list.
I feel like that's a bad model. I feel like naming a child to be a good kid name is going to come back to bite them when they're like 30.
No, sorry. No, when I say kids' names,
Choo Choo and Mit Mit.
No, Al, I don't mean it's a name that's a good kid's name and that it's appropriate for kids. I mean it's my list of kids' names just like these are names that are progeny names. I'll rename the list progeny names if you want.
Okay, yeah. Anywhere on there, is there a Colin?
No.
A Bruce, perhaps?
Nope.
What kind of names are there?
You don't want to know the names on my
Give
list.
me one teaser, like a Juliet.
Nope, there's no Juliet. I'm sorry, I'm opening up my drive right now. Let me see if I can find this. Keep vamping.
Jorge Rodriguez.
Jorge.
Is there a Joe Smith like that pitcher on the Angels?
Nope. So far, you
or
have hit
like
none
the
of them.
founder of our church.
But I will say this. I was reading the Old Testament one day, and I came across the female name Zillah. I cannot get my wife on board with this name, as she feels it is too close to Godzilla.
Yeah, she would not make it through grade school. Nor would she ever be able to buy her own domain name because I'm sure Zillow owns it as a defensive tactic.
Oh, yeah. Should we look at who is? Does anyone own Zillah.com?
Mozilla, perhaps?
Well, it's Zillah with an H, though, at the end. That's the thing.
Zillah.
Yeah, Zillah.com. It's just a biblical one.
What about Zenith? Could you name your child Zenith?
Zillah.com is... Zenith would be kind of cool. Zillah.com is unavailable, unfortunately.
Obviously.
I'm going to find you.
Obviously, Joe.
Everything's taken, I know. Like we talked about before, the church owns all kinds of nonsense. Network Solutions owns it. The city of Zillah. What is this? In Washington State? Who are these people?
But Zilla Openshaw is not taken.
Zillah, Washington. Oh, I'm going to bomb this city. Where are you, Zillah, Washington? I bet you're...
He's not
I
actually
bet you're in some
bomb
filthy
city.
place by Walla Walla or Yakima. Yep, right by Yakima. Doesn't shock me. This seems like the kind of thing they would do out there. Why do they own .com? They should own Zillah.gov. They don't need .com. I need Oh, this is terrible.
Your whole idea is
Pretty much. How you doing, Al? What's going on with you?
No, I'm good. I'm really good. I'm here in Utah, preparing to close up my apartment and move to DC next to you. I'm going to be your roommate.
Sure,
soon,
that's it.
we will be living in the same bedroom. I, of course, will take the middle spot because
It will be like all the sitcoms of old.
And Danielle can flank me.
Where
This will be two men and a lady in a pizza place.
I'd say you'd be moving here with your best friend, but now we know that's not true because that would involve a move to Canada, apparently. You defector, you terrible draft dodger. How dare you?
Jeff, It was an
After
international
everything I've
incident.
given
I had
to
to.
you,
I had to
I
save
give,
face.
I give. I need. Why? Why?
Me, my. No, Jeff, we can have more than one best friend. Haven't you ever been through kindergarten? This
You
is
were
what I learned there.
homeschooled. You learned nothing.
All right, that's true on many levels, but also you can have many best friends. Jeff, this is a real thing. Hey, buddy, we're tight, man. You and me.
This is going to be my next. This is going to be the next. This is going to be the next poll I'm going to put up there. Can you have more than one best friend? Or, oh, I forgot, Al. Elder Oaks talk. Good, better, and best. Best.
And
I am
be
the
only
better
one
friend.
best, right?
This is what I've picked up on from your MSNBC tirade, and you shall not be forgiven for this malfeasance. Get off my phone.
Okay. Get off my phone.
Whatever.
Yeah, well, but that was actually fun. I got to go be on the national TV. MSNBC is funny because the people that watch MSNBC casually during lunch hour are mainly airports and delis, I feel like. And so not so much a quilting demographic, but it was still fun.
It's like the time I was on C-SPAN, and then just a retirement home in Florida called me.
Wait, you were on C-SPAN? Oh.
Well,
I was trying to be
tangentially, but
supportive
not
and excited.
featured.
Go on. How are you on
I've
there
been at
tangentially?
organizational things and activities and events that organizations I've been at have put on, and those have been on things like C-SPAN. So in theory, I've been on it, but not really of note.
Wait, have you ever paused the frame?
No,
and
I don't even have
screen grabbed
cable.
it?
Why would I watch
show-
C-SPAN?
to
I
show
don't
a
watch
picture of
C-SPAN.
you.
If
So the idea that you were at a Royals game because the Angels aren't in the playoffs anymore, but let's say you were at a Royals game.
I would say I've been on
and the
TBS.
Royals you've
Exactly.
been on TV.
I've been on TBS. Sure.
Just because an event you were at was televised. Okay, no, that makes sense. That's good.
I will never
Yeah,
claim
good
to have
job.
been featured on television, except for public access when I was 7. But
Jeff, you weren't actually on TV. Nothing you did made it on TV.
nothing I've ever done has been worthy of a 5-minute segment on the late morning shift on MSNBC.
Unlike me, this is my 4th time on television.
It's old hats now. You got to work up your angle now. It's been the same story for a year. Come on, I want something new, something fresh.
All right, I can work on that. I can come up with something. Something besides save my family from terrible woes
Quilting
and
mogul
unemployment.
terrorizes town.
You know what I need is an assistant named Zilla, and I can send her to ravage the
I feel
town
like
people.
we could frame you for something. We could have some kind of a framed mystery going along the banks of the Missouri. There's something there. I think this could be good. There's a story
fool,
there. There's
Jeff.
a David Fincher movie.
You're a
in that.
fool.
I think we've got something.
I can only hope that it
Great.
turns out great. How have you been, Jeff?
Oh,
How are you?
splendiferous. My mother was actually in town. She comes out on occasion for work, so we were able to go hang with her a little bit this weekend. That was nice. So
Sounds amazing.
it was amazing. It was positively delightful.
How I do love Barbara, but the idea that you got to hang with your mom. I mean, go grab some lunch. Maybe go grab lunch and then go to a pumpkin patch. But let's not hang out with Mother.
We grabbed lunch, and then we went to the Air and Space Annex out by Dulles, because she'd never been there, and she was staying out in Fairfax. And then we went to the grocery store. So, not too bad. I had to shop.
Killed
anyway.
it. Killed
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Good work. Fred Myers took care of me.
Other than that, I'm doing well. Just keeping busy.
Yeah. Well, that's neither.
Off to St.
that is
Louis
neither
next
here nor
week,
there.
so that
Now,
should be fun. I hear bad things.
attaboy. So coming off of this conference high we've been on, have you made changes to your life because of conference?
No.
Well, they gave it a good shot. Anyway,
I've changed my perspective in things, which is what I always appreciate about a conference. It helps me think of things as I might not have thought.
yeah, I feel like that's really what conference is all about. Can we just think about more things? It's not about doing or becoming. It's just about
I
can
am
we
great
think about
at
things more?
strategizing, but actually implementing said strategy
I'm the supervisor for Jesus. That's what I do.
I got nothing to say on that. I can plan. I will plan, and you will execute. This is the reason why I have counselors. They do all my dirty work.
They do all the work.
I don't want to sit these guys
and give all the
I don't need to extend this calling to someone
me.
and instill in them my confidence and that the Spirit has confirmed them to have this role. Just have my second counselor do it so I can not do it. It's brilliant. This is the strategy of the gospel, everyone. True leaders know how to inspire and delegate so that they have more time to watch Dawson's Creek.
I respect the heck out of that.
Thank you kindly.
Are you done with Dawson's Creek, by the way?
No, it's just we just trickle along.
This is why this is indicative of all other aspects of your life. You can't even finish Dawson's Creek. What makes you think you can finish a whole pie by
Absolutely
yourself?
Nothing. I've never eaten a whole pie by myself.
4 times going. All right. So did you notice? So you remember we talked a little bit about Elder Uchtdorf when he was in women's conference, right? He said now, this is exciting as we begin our general conference, blah, blah, blah. And then in the priesthood session, there was a prayer given where he said, we're grateful to be in this 4th session of general conference. Sort of this idea that like the women's session of general conference was also included. The men get a meeting, the women get a meeting. Kind of exciting to think about. Fun to feel like it's included. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, like it's a week-long conference. It starts with the women's meeting. You have meetings in between, and then we have general sessions at the end. I think it makes sense.
It opens up doors to do all kinds of other meetings, activities, bunk beds, all that kind of stuff. And so the church actually went out of their way. They edited the prayer. The video of the prayer is edited to exclude now the verbiage 4th session of general conference. Seemingly, the man made a mistake. He was not to say that, and they edited it out. They went out of their way to say this is not a part of general conference. It's a great thing, but not part of the general conference. Which, again, to quote Jim Gaffigan, why is it a general conference? Can we not get any more specific than that? What kind of conference is this? Now, this is weird to me, though. I mean, this feels very like Pharaoh in Egypt. I'm going to go and chisel out Moses' name from the stone so that nobody will remember this. Like, if you have weird stuff that was, like, you didn't expect to be said, or, like, if somebody misnames the wrong session, just leave it alone. Who cares?
Yeah.
Why is this a thing? Why are we going out of our way to correct this? I feel like it's a little bit more of a slap in the face than probably they want it to be.
Like Julie M. Smith over at she blogs for a lot of places, Times and Seasons she's often on, and she made a pretty good point. She's like, if you had set out to find one petty, bureaucratic, and completely meaningless way of being sure that Mormon women get the message that they don't count, you couldn't do any better than this, altering the words of a prayer so that their meeting literally does not count. And that's, in general, I agree with that. Maybe it was just a faux pas by President Uchtdorf. It's just one of these sad things that President Uchtdorf made a very benign remark of like, hey, as we start general conference. And a lot of people got excited and said, oh, the women's meeting is part of general conference. I didn't know that before. And then for some reason we felt like we had to back away from that because it made a difference. Because we could have also just ignored it and then privately said, everybody, just so you know, it's not actually part of conference. So just try not to make references like that when you're speaking. And that would have been the end of it. Instead, we've drawn attention to such a minor thing and potentially alienated and upset people in the process. Like, because this seems like we're going out of our way to make things more difficult than they needed to be.
Well, they really have. They've sort of, they've created something where it shouldn't have been. I just think it's dumb of them to like focus on it. I also think it's dumb to edit and post little stuff like that people clearly pick up on. Elder Packer's comments in a couple of conferences ago is a great example of that. Like, he kind of said something that was a little bit off. Some people misunderstood it, and rather than clarify it, they just edited the words out.
Now, how does that play on the video? Is it just silence?
Claimed he said something that he did not say. No, I don't know about the video. I'm assuming the video is just clipped. I'm assuming it's just hops.
Yeah. Well, at least it's not as bad as stuff like back in the 80s. Or was it the 80s? No one was this. When Elder Ronald Pullman spoke. Do you remember this famous General Conference moment? Elder Pullman spoke in conference. I won't go into the details of his address, but apparently, either way, the church wasn't in love with his remarks, which reminds us once again that the remarks aren't necessarily screened in advance, right? Whatever, I forget everything he talked about exactly. I can only pick his name. But basically, after the fact, the church actually made him go into a soundstage dressed to look like the tabernacle or the tabernacle itself and re-give a talk, but one that was approved. Yes.
No.
That would, and that would be the archived talk for posterity. And the original talk, no, they even added a so-called cough track. So, like, while he's speaking, in the background, you hear little, little human noises in the background that were normal for the tabernacle in particular. Yeah.
What? Where is this? Where is this? Do you have a link?
I'm trying to find you a good one that doesn't go out of its best to just tear apart, the church. You could. This is ex-Mormon fodder 101, obviously. So, I think this did happen, October 1984. Oh, here's the link right here. So I believe here's the link to the original talk. We're not going to watch it all here, but you can check it out. Links to the original talk, which someone somehow found a video of, but then if you go read his transcript, quite different. And then they actually made him redo it.
Wait, this is the original talk?
So check it out on your own time.
How do you get the original talk?
People have ways, man. Somebody's leaking stuff, We
got him.
So I don't know. Stuff like this happens. I understand the continuity of message, but it makes us wonder. I understand if there's something egregious that needs to be amended. That could happen, right? But little things, they're little things. Because even if, for example, you could even read along with someone's talk when they give it and see that they stray a little bit with some of the exact wording. It doesn't change the meaning of what's said, so they don't bother with it. But even that's not, verbatim what's written down when you actually read the conference talks. You'll see that all the time.
I feel like that's a dangerous road to go down rather than having people that have made mistakes and being like, oh yeah, that's all right. Like trying to, the Catholic Church struggled with this for a long time, of like trying to hold up this veil of perfection. Mm-hmm. And then when it came down, people really struggled. I was talking to, you and I have done this many times where I was talking to a friend over the weekend. She's telling me about, all her friends that have left the church. And we had a couple of mutual friends that have left the church, and it all comes from, I was out on a mission. I was telling everybody we were perfect and all this stuff. Anytime somebody would have any criticism, we had every answer all the time. And as soon as the church became not perfect in the least degree, it broke that entire testimony, right? And that's where it's dangerous, is if there's some sort of an expectation of perfection. True in relationships and in religion, people. Like if you are expecting perfection, all it takes is like the tiniest imperfection, and your entire perception has been blown. I should be a beat poet. I feel like that was great. When you expect perfection, it changes perception.
That's like that.
Woman, where is your cat? You ran off with my dog. She took my man and my house.
You're like that. Have you seen that YouTube video going around of the guy who gives his big, freestyle rap style of the anti-social media message? That's
what I'm saying. It's the beat poetry.
Yeah.
You got to believe in religion if you don't. Yeah.
In other quick, unfortunate conference news, some of the stuff we're catching up on. You probably all saw this. I don't want to dwell on it much. There's a gay bar in Salt Lake City that's been accused of mocking the church, which should not be, altogether surprising on something like conference weekend. But this time, apparently, they went out of bounds at Club Jam. Other than
you got discounts if you wore your missionary
Other than the naked statue of Moroni and having sacrament shops and garment droppers, apparently, people like to wear, name tags. Also, they were saying people wore garments, missionary name tags, or a suit. They were getting free entry for the missionary blank conference weekend party. So that's really exciting. I'm all for freedom of speech, so whatever. People are going to do what they do, but I believe it's in poor taste and unfortunate.
Exceptionally poor taste.
Indeed.
Indubitably, my good man. Let's see. I'm trying to think like what the other
Well,
big
we've got
ones
we've got a
are.
couple.
What are the
we
things?
can talk about paying to be baptized. That's a big one, or we could save it.
Yeah, or the
Take
the
me
feature on
to
Mormon
the
drug
world of
use.
drugs.
All right, Jeff. In a seedy
my understanding is
underbelly of a town we call Sandy,
My understanding is
Utah,
Jesse Pinkman is Mormon. So tell me more.
there lives a bishop named Walter White. Let's see. So CNN is doing a spot with Life with Lisa Ling, and it's titled "Unholy Addiction."
Are there
like that.
holy
Unholy
addictions?
addictions,
Hold
sort
on,
of
let's back up a second. What kind of a modifier is that?
No, Jeff. Oh my gosh, man, I do all my food storage too much. I read my scriptures for 9 hours a day, and I should only read them for 1.
I care too much. I work too hard. I'm too invested.
Yeah, I have too much empathy, debilitating empathy. And
Well, that's a
love
good name for
others.
the show as well. Debilitating empathy. Love that. Love that.
Yeah. Hey, that's
another name for our band.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. And so the idea, though, is she goes to Salt Lake City, to Utah, and the focus is on like painkiller addictions, things like that. Now, this is interesting because addiction to painkillers, that's one of those things that sort of slides under the radar. You're not necessarily injecting yourself. You're not pulling out a needle and a little elastic to get yourself going. You're just popping some pills. It's a much more passive way to get addicted to something, I feel like, but the addiction is just as real. And it's funny, in Utah there's so many of those addiction rehab centers out here. It's similar in style to the number of plastic surgeons and stuff, where you look at it and you say, this is kind of weird to see so much of this in this one area, but it is a huge deal. And there's the idea, like sort of like we were talking about, when the expectation is perfection, in order to deal with you not being perfect, if that's what you are expecting, you go to some of these other, you fall into some of these other traps, and addiction becomes a very, very heavy, hard thing, because no one could possibly know. You're the only one that's ever struggled with this addiction. No one else was expected to be as good as you. That's honestly. So like, I've never struggled with, serious addiction per se. But I've had things that, like, my own sins that I'm struggling to quit. And it's funny because as a 14-year-old, I remember the distinct feeling of like, I can't go see the bishop. He thinks I'm perfect. And if I destroyed that, oh my gosh, then what? And how different that perception is from reality when you go see the bishop and he just, he cries with you and gives you a big hug and says, we're going to get through this. And all of a sudden that whole thing is off. And man, what freedom there is in not trying to keep up that perception, right?
I'm here.
Jeff, are you
I'm
still
listening
there?
to you.
You just don't want to talk. You're just not interested.
I'm listening to
comment.
you. You're saying good things.
I had one other friend that came back into town that's sort of faded in church activity. And that was one of the things where she was like, it's just because I don't go to church on Sunday, I'm still a good person, and just because I swear now, I'm still a good person. Like, it doesn't matter. And I was like, yeah, it's interesting. The motives need to change. You need to not swear around me because you love me, not because I would think less of you, right? Like that. That's sort of where that balance needs to lie. And instead, we put a lot of that pressure of like, what are other people going to think? And when you're living your life to appease other people, it's a very unfulfilling life. Don't bother with that.
It's tough, man. 'Cause, like you read in, in the Bible, be ye therefore perfect, right? It's a famous verse right there. The Lord commanded it, telling us what we need to be. I think the important thing to note there is that he doesn't say be ye therefore perfect right now. That's important, but especially in our church, yes, we do have this perfectionism complex, and there's nothing wrong with aspiring to great things and aspiring to conquer the temporal self and aspiring to elevate the spiritual self and do these things and be actively engaged in them. But all too easily, we compare ourselves to those around us. And I can see this in Utah being an especially larger problem because of the dominant, religious persuasion in the state. So your peers are all the people who share your views. So in one way or another, you're competing with them. And so it drives people into these unsavory places. Well, I love this video was great. This whole special, especially because the church even cooperated with it. This wasn't a thing where the church saw it as a hit piece against the church. The church saw it as a thing like, this is a problem with our members. This is something we're aware of and something we hope people will be working on. And you can bet your booty that the brethren up there in Salt Lake talk about these things. Yes.
Bet your booty. Wait, so is this special out yet, or is this just a commercial?
Of course, that was just a commercial that you saw, yes. It usually says when it's going to
Is it out yet?
That's usually what happens.
You made it sound like you've
seen everything.
it, Jeff. I'm just saying.
I speak from a point of authority.
I believe that.
So much authority.
Hey, did you know there was a Book of Mormon on palms?
I've heard things about this. Tell me more.
Guy brought in like the 1940s edition, 1943 or something like that. The last one done by printed while Joseph Smith was around, and it was appraised like 40
So wait a minute.
grand.
So you say I'm confused. You said it was you said 19. So it's 1842 edition.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1840s.
1940s didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Clearly
there,
not the
buddy. I was
1940s.
like,
he brings it in, and it's got the blue with the gold angel Moroni on the front.
that's pretty cool though. I mean, because not just that.
Not
I mean,
really.
even the everybody was surprised. That's what I love. I love that the appraiser came in and just said, "This is the most valuable book you've ever given me." Here's the thing: I've been to the shop.
The appraiser's words. They came in and said, "This is the most correct book."
And then he said, "I
any
cannot
book."
translate a sealed book."
Yeah.
And then he took his letter of
Very
authenticity after he appraised the book and
And-
said, ripped
he
it up and
ripped
said,
it up.
no. Get out of here.
That's funny.
Did the
That's
guy
funny. I
actually
don't care
sell
who
the
you are.
book?
That's funny. Yeah, he cashed out.
Oh, but see, he only sold it to him for 24 grand. It's worth 40 grand. I know Rick wants to make his profit, but come on. You
got to
gotta
make
at
that
least take him
profit,
for
Jeff.
30.
In this game, it's all about making buckets.
I guess
You
I
know
would
what I'm
feel
saying?
weird if I owned a prized Book of Mormon. I guess I would be. I don't think I'd be compelled to sell it just for. Maybe if I were on hard times or whatever, who knows? But I think I would want to keep something like that as a bit of an heirloom. But then to sell it to Rick and Chumley and Junior and the old man of Pawn Stars.
And
I mean,
Chumley. What a terrible.
What are they
character.
going to do with it? I've been to the pawn shop. You know, I have been to the Dirty Pawn Stars pawn shop, and it is a special place. It is 50% merchandise. They don't show you this on TV because it's all behind the cameras when they're filming. Half of the store is nothing but merch. That's all it is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I tried to see anybody there. I think we saw Chumley in the back, but nothing really happened. Very, very sad. Very sad. But I think it's pretty
What can
cool
you
that this came on TV. I like it. Another quick story here. The church and the fine town city of Parowan, Utah. If you've never been to Parowan, it's probably because it's off of I-15 when you're just kind of driving through the middle of nowhere in central Utah. So, but it's there. It's real. Okay?
If you've never been, it's probably
You might have
because
seen
it's near a
signs
highway.
for it
That's
before
your
you pressed
rationale.
on to Beaver. Okay? That's how it is when you're driving through Utah. You got your the problem with Parowan is it's too close to
The
Cedar
best
City.
water in the world.
The checkpoints on I-15 when you're driving up are St. George, Cedar City, Beaver, Fillmore, and then you get up to Nephi and stuff. So Parowan just suffers because it's not enough of a magnet between all of those. It's very sad. Anyway, a few years ago, the city of Parowan had some public bathrooms by a park. The church stepped in and said, actually, this is on our land, and we want it torn down so we can build a shed. So that's great. But then a title search a year and a half later showed that the city actually owns the property. So the city officials spent some time writing letters to the church asking to have the costs covered to rebuild the bathrooms, which cost about 75 grand. It's amazing what bathrooms can cost, right? And they also wanted to be compensated for the city's loss. So it took a very, very long time. They finally got 26 grand out of the church, but they spent a year of going back and forth with church representatives. Everything was fine in the end, but I guess it cracks me up in the sense that the church said, we own this land, we want to do what we want with it. And then it finds out after the fact, oh, we were wrong about owning the land, but we don't want to give you restitution for anything. You're going to have to fight us tooth and nail.
And then when an article finally comes out in the paper, they say,
once it went to the press, the church, okay. So I'm not knocking it. The church is run by humans. These things happen. But I think it would be embarrassing if this were on a larger scale or anywhere other than Parowan, the definition of a flyover town in Utah. Thank you.
I like it.
This one's for Parowan. I mean, how many people even live in Parowan? 2,800 people.
7 people.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, so do you remember there's an article about that the church is, speaking of church and property, the church in Australia was selling properties? I can't read it because it wants me to subscribe, but like,
and I read it once and then it knocked me out too. These people, I had it on one click, I was able to see it. So if anyone else manages to cache it, let us know. We'll try it out. The church owns a lot of properties that they bought back in the mid-'90s in Australia. Many perceive this as part of the church's effort to own lots of agricultural land, to be able to, especially to have it globally strategically located, so that the needs of the saints could be met in the event of a disaster, regardless of where it happens in the world. So it's like something happens to Florida and wipes out our 2% of Florida. We still own Australia. You know, we can use Australia. Australia is good.
Yeah, that was the backup.
There's been no release about this. No one knows why. The church just very quietly has listed the bulk of their Australian agricultural properties. They've just put them on the market. They're not advertising it, but they're out there on the market. I don't know. Are we giving up on Australia?
Huh.
Does Australia have nothing to offer us other than Crocodile Dundee?
They have Tim Tam. They have molasses.
Does molasses come from Australia? Is that what you're coming from here?
No, I don't know. I was just trying to make them feel. They have some sort of nasty spread.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about, but I can't think of its name. Yeah. We have Australian listeners. You know who you are. Please tell us what the gross spread thing is that Al's referring to, because I
What is that stuff that you do?
We know they listen. I look at the numbers. I know you Australians are there. Tell us. Tell us on Facebook or send us an email or something. We want to know. Be good.
What now?
Okay, let's talk about allegedly paying to baptize. So this comes off of a blog that is critical of the church, so take that as you must, a little bit of clickbait, because it says new Mormon converts must pay to be baptized. So that's, of course, to get your attention. Not entirely true.
I'm listening.
So it's not entirely true.
Ears are perked.
But what's been going on here is in the northwest South America area, which I guess is sort of, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, maybe Venezuela. That area of the church, South America Northwest area, they've basically tried to institute a policy because I'm sure because of retention issues to get the investigators a little bit more acclimated to the church before they make the commitment. You say something like that to me, and I say, that's great. I've seen missionaries in far too much of a rush to get people baptized who really were not ready and did not understand the commitments they were undertaking, and that's great. But as we dig deeper, apparently because of some memos and some internal things that have come out, that they want, before that they can get baptized, so they want them to attend church 3 times for all 3 hours, but they also want them to pay tithing and fast offerings. Now that's the kicker there. So what we're to interpret here is that potential converts in this area are supposed to actually have to pay tithing before they can get baptized, which is, one, fascinating because you can't pay tithing without a membership record number, so figure that one out. But 2, when you interview to be baptized, you commit to keep the law of tithing. That's as far as it goes. It's not saying that, I don't know. I mean, are we going beyond the mark if this is the case? I don't want to pick everything apart. There's a lot of stuff that could be, hearsay and conjecture. But I think if there's truth to what's going on there, I understand the good intentions behind it, but I'm concerned about implementation for something like that. I think that.
Well, I'm with you. I think probably the idea, or as they're sitting back saying, what's a good gatekeeper for people with real intent versus people that are just trying to be nice to the missionaries. I know in our mission we had the rule where you had to go to church 3 times for all 3 hours. That was a real thing for us. They just wanted to see a pattern of going to church, which I like a lot better rather than a lot of other areas where it's like, no, you just have to come for all 3 hours one time and then you can get baptized. And then it's up to the members to figure out what to do with you. It's like, no, let's teach them more what they're getting into, and let them make a decision, based on like what they're feeling and what they've learned. It's not so much about just getting them in and then figuring out what to do with them later. So I like that. In fact, I even like the idea that like they need to get comfortable with the idea that about living the word of wisdom, about chastity, and the other commandment that we have that's a big one is the law of tithing, right? And so I kind of like, if I were in their shoes, I'd be like, yeah, this is a great thing. When somebody says, oh, I see, so I need to pay 10% of my income in order to be baptized. Well, when you put it like that, this is a bad idea, right? This is completely not what we were going for. Abort mission. Everybody turn around. Shut it down. Shut it down. So, like, I mean, I know that this is probably going to be nipped in the bud from the top down, where the church will come out, like the leader or the powers that be will say.
Well,
no,
because a lot of this comes from the area presidency. This isn't like rogue mission presidents colluding together. We're talking.
Well, yeah, but area presidencies are just as prone to like bonehead ideas as anybody, right?
I agree. It's interesting. In Handbook 2, it makes the point that they forbid charging for two things associated with baptism. You cannot charge for anyone to have to use the baptismal font, and local units should have baptismal clothing available and cannot charge to use it. So those are the only thing that's mentioned. And some of the wording here says, some kind of an offering. I understand the motive behind it. You want to see that people have a commitment to sacrificing the temporal because that is what God wants us to do, and it demonstrates that. And I like they actually get some anecdotes from either recently former missionaries or currently serving missionaries who were in these conferences talking about this policy. And it's great. I love missionaries because it's great how they talk about it, and they're like, wow. Like, this is inspired because they're saying, like, this is ensuring true conversion that people do this. And and I could imagine, especially in Latin American countries, tithing might be an issue because anywhere where there's more poverty, rather. And I'm just saying that, more struggling economies, greater income disparity, people often don't view tithing as part of disposable income per se. It is faith building in that sense, because when you're looking at, if you're you're the widow of Zarephath or whatever, you're sitting there thinking like, okay, Elijah, if I give you the cake, I'm going to die. I don't have anything else to do. And there are a lot of people feeling that way. So I appreciate trying to instill in potential converts the importance of the law of tithing. And I have a huge testimony of it. I just don't want to see this backfire in a weird way. No, yeah.
Yeah. Be careful, like good ideas. It's sort of similar. I was working on an article. I'm still stewing on it, on like chauvinism in the LDS church, like how there's a lot of guys in the church that sort of have these views that are very blatantly chauvinist if you take it out of the context of like, well, I'm a good priesthood holder, right? Where things like just the way that we sort of that you'll see them gently patronize their wives with stuff. It just bothers me a lot. But like, it's fine because we've heard it our whole lives, and that, like, you put it, it's in that little Mormon light. And then when you take it out of that, it's like, oh, so essentially your husband is paying you to get skinny, right? Like he's bribing you to be better looking for him. Like, that's not okay, people. That shouldn't be all right. It's like, I wasn't doing that. Well, yeah, that's exactly what you were doing, actually, with this, I'll give you money in exchange for this goal that you're going to meet that I set for you. Doesn't work. But, like, in the moment, you'll never notice that it's a totally schmuckish move.
You've got to quit saying that word, by the way.
What's wrong with schmuck?
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
I know what it means in the context of being a sort of a dork.
Well, that's not the actual direct translation from Yiddish.
I'm not directly translating from Yiddish, Jeff. What am I, in 1940?
I'm just telling you that the more appropriate substitution is schmo.
Hold on. Let's define.
Oh, this is going to be good. Go ahead. Find the definition of your word. I've long thought you should stop saying this. Some of our listeners
Schmuck,
spoke out.
A foolish or contemptible person.
Keep going.
No, that's it. That's what the definition is. Nailed it.
Yeah.
There's an Urban Dictionary translation.
Yeah, you didn't read. Are you on the Wikipedia entry? Because that explains it a little bit more.
No, I'm in the dictionary.com, Jeff. That's where I go for definitions of words. You can go origins all you want. I don't care. I'm continuing to say schmuck.
Okay. Well, okay. I encourage you to change your ways. I'm calling you to repentance.
I shan't.
Anyway, one last note I was thinking about the tithing thing. It's interesting because you can be worthy to take the sacrament and go to church even if you don't pay tithing, right? I mean, tithing is something we're encouraged to do, and it is a barrier, for lack of a better term, for temple entry. But one can be a completely active and good standing member of the church and struggle with paying tithing. So I find it interesting that...
I don't know. Wait, that's not true. If you don't pay your tithing, you can't go to the temple.
No, that's what I'm saying. I know you can't go to the temple, but you can go to church. You can pray at church. You can speak. You can be actively involved. You might not be able to go to the temple. That's true. But there's nothing else that holds you back church-wise if you aren't paying your tithing. I mean, there are the blessings you're not receiving, of course, but anyway, it's just interesting taking temple standards. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. There's almost nothing that you could do that would prohibit you from being an active member of the church.
Right.
Outside of like
okay. But what I'm
sex
saying
and murder.
What I'm saying
that's a great criteria to judge yourself by, Jeff. I can still go to church and take the sacrament if I want, no matter what.
Yes, you could. But say you were repenting of grievous sins, your bishop might counsel you to not take the sacrament. To my knowledge, if you're not paying tithing, your bishop is not going to say, don't take the sacrament.
I don't know.
He might. I don't know if anyone has any stories to share. Please do.
I don't know either, actually.
But I don't believe that would be the case because tithing is a commandment. And of course it's robbing God not to pay it and all that stuff. But a little bit different.
All right.
Anyway, soldier on. The Osmonds rocked pretty hard. We shared the story a little while ago. We're cleaning out some of our pre-conference
Turns
closets.
out the Osmonds had a heavy metal phase.
Oh, Crazy Horses! Don't you remember Crazy Horses?
No, of course I don't know Crazy
Horses. Wow, wow, Crazy Horses. It's legendary.
That doesn't sound like a real song at all.
It is a real song, and my first exposure to it actually as a boy, I kid you not, there was a special of Disneyland's 25th anniversary. Now, I probably watched this after the fact because Disney turned 25 when I was -1. But so it was hosted by Danny Kaye, legendary comedian. But the Osmonds performed, 80s Osmonds. And I remember them performing this song, and I didn't really know what it was, but it confused the heck out of me. And now there's a great article here over at Death and Taxes Mag where they profile the Osmonds dabbling in hard rock in the 70s. And the great thing is they made some good albums back then, but I like that they kind of laughed at like it's Mormon heavy metal, which isn't real. There's nothing Mormon about what they're doing, except there, of course, their famed album, The Plan, which was this masterwork of religious overtones. But Crazy Horses, oh my goodness.
All right, whatever.
Let's
see. There's a great article, Jeff. You're particularly fascinated with this, the changing sort of view of mission presidents' wives.
Oh, I'm so fascinated.
Well, yeah, you actually are. I've heard you talk about it more than once, up to 2 times, and so the sort of the idea. I mean, this was nuanced in conference that a mission president's wife. I mean, it could be a little bit more active role than just being the mission president's wife, and maybe that necessitates a different title. You know, the matron of the mission, mama mission president, mama. I don't know if we don't currently have an official title for them, and nor is there sort of the official role. After coming off of the West Wing, finishing season 7.
Oh, congratulations!
And being done. Thank you, Jeff. I felt like my friends were all leaving. It was so sad. But as the new first lady's coming in, of course, Donna asks, well, what kind of first lady do you want to be? You can either be the sort of feature where you're the host or the hostess of America. So like as people come, you're just being gracious and a good host, or you can have an agenda and drive forward on that. And I kind of feel like mission presidents mission president wives have a similar thing where they can take a very active role if they want to, or they can just kind of hang out and cruise. Yeah. And I've seen both.
I agree.
I don't know. Do we dictate sort of what they need to be, or do we just leave it to them?
Well, it's interesting because to my knowledge, aren't mission presidents and their wives are called jointly, right? Isn't it a little bit different? Like when they call it, they actually say you and your wife are called, I believe.
Why don't they say you and your husband are called?
Sorry, you and your that actually is what it should be. But whatever. But you messed with my head with the words and the way you change them around. But I believe that's how they do it with mission presidents, which they don't do with other ones. Other ones, it's a courtesy. When they brought me in when I talked to the stake president, being Elders Quorum president, he had my wife come with me, and we just kind of chit-chatted. But he just wanted to make sure she was okay with it. It wasn't like it was a joint sort of calling, a life-altering thing where we were both tackling this collectively, because, we don't. So I agree. I think there's been debate for a long time. What do we call them? You're not going to call it the mission matron, like in the temple. You're not going to call her the mission assistant president, because that is not totally true and could be perceived as demeaning because it's president and assistant. That doesn't really work.
Can't do that.
Can't do that. So I've wondered too, and I think it's interesting how fluid the roles can be. And as you might imagine, though, I think in the history of the church, when these wives went out originally, they probably had maybe a little bit more freedom. Like a lot of the auxiliaries used to have more freedom before we correlated everything. But nowadays, of course, it's even different because you have more sister missionaries. And I think that's the big thing that's changing it. Because we used to have, what was it before, 8% sister missionaries in the mission force maybe, and now it's like 30% sister missionaries. And so that with that role changing a lot for sister missionaries, it does make the mission president's wife much more visible in her role. She can teach everybody, but I like that they're doing a lot more stuff. I'm trying to think about my mission mission moms, as we called them. Ours were pretty traditional, I guess. They were kind of the ones who would just be nice to us and feed us and looked out for our health. We didn't have ones that were giving us lectures on public speaking and stuff like that. But
yeah,
if you do,
I don't know. There's some very smart and capable women out there. I wonder, is a mission president, is that a priesthood calling? Like, do you need to hold the priesthood in order to preside over a mission?
Very interesting notes. Well, you must, I believe, one, because you hold the keys for baptism for your missionaries.
That's not true. Being in the office of a priest, you hold the baptism or the keys.
Well, you have to work under one's direction, though, and authority. Much like as a priest in a ward can bless the sacrament, but the bishop has to give the okay, right? So I believe the mission president directs the work. I'm sure in the book it says he must be a Melchizedek priesthood holder, but I am fascinated by you raising that question, Al, of the actual sort of theocratic structure of mission president. It's not a priesthood office. We know that.
Well, I just remember, like, when I would do EFY, this is obviously isn't a parallel, but when I do EFY, they had session directors that were like, the strong one was obviously the woman, and she'd come and like be the teacher and sort of carry the load. And man, there's some amazing female teachers out there, especially in the gospel. It would make great sense, and from an organization standpoint, much more organized than their male counterparts often.
Let's start small. I'm just pushing for female ward mission leaders. I think that's a good hurdle for us to cross.
Female ward mission leaders and Sunday school presidents.
I think that's a good hurdle for us to start with. Work our way up. I don't have any problem.
I'm just curious. Like that would be pretty interesting to have.
Well, it's a good question. If there really is any priesthood definition or clause to really require it on the books. Other things make sense because of keys, because of organizational stuff, but does the mission president have to be? Because he is because the mission president's basically the mission leader as opposed to a ward mission leader. It's the same general idea, except it's full time and you take your spouse. So, speaking of mission presidents, he wasn't mine, but he did preside over the wonderful and righteous Spain-Barcelona mission. Clark B. Hinckley, who is President Hinckley's son.
CBH.
And as a side note, kind of cool, he was one of the first missionaries to actually serve in Spain. When they opened the country to preaching the gospel, he was one of the first few. They flew over from Argentina to open the country. So that must have been kind of fun for him. Open Spain. Just to be like, I opened Spain. No big deal. But he's in his new civilian life, he's decided to write a book about Christopher Columbus. And it was Columbus Day this week. And I see every year more and more stuff against Christopher Columbus, about how he was a genocidal maniac. That might be true. But I also see great reminders that, we believe in divine providence and that Christopher Columbus came here with a purpose to open up the new world for the eventual restoration of the gospel. I think both of these things are true. And Brother Clark has decided to be fascinated by Columbus and write a book, as he say. Well, it's kind of funny because he's like, I took the approach to say, what does this man look like if you simply believe what he said? Now, I don't know if that's the approach you want to take when writing a book. Like,
no, that is
how would this book
approach.
be if the approach is, this guy said something? And so let's take his point of view. But I think it's fair to dive. He takes an LDS perspective on Columbus and on the good things he did do, which I think are real, and I think many other people on their own did bad things. I do think Columbus did bad things. Just because he was inspired to find the New World doesn't mean that he was without sin. I think that's something we need to get across. But the funnier thing is, Clark Hinckley is not a historian. He has a degree in mathematics and an MBA from Harvard University. And he just got really into Columbus and decided to write a book about it. So good for him.
I kind of love that. Yeah. You know what I know? I know about this stuff.
Many in the disaffected Mormon camp are not pleased with. They think it's stupid, basically, or in the anti-Columbus camp, for that matter. There's so many camps.
What does it matter? Like, there's so many. Like, how many people that have written a book about Columbus would you say are actual historians? Probably a large percentage, maybe into the 90%. But 10% of books that are written about Columbus that are not written by historians, there's probably a ton of those.
And they're probably the most entertaining.
Very entertaining because they don't need fact. That's what I love about books written by non-historians.
Because they
don't make it a fictional thing, right? Like, wrap it up with vampires and add some sex and plagiarize it from a Utah school teacher. That's what I want to see about Columbus. There's a little nod to a story from a couple of weeks ago.
I'm the next Ridley Scott film, 1492.
So also speaking of, like, I don't know, we're transitioning still, but the church, did you know that there's Mormon female chaplains? This is kind of cool.
Awesome. Tell me more.
Yes. So that was my Stefan. Yes. So there's actually several of these, but there's an article written about one that, in particular, that's a chaplain that preaches at a interfaith service every Sunday. She's LDS. Put it right on her I'm a Mormon, Mormon.org page. And the church is like, they're cool with it. So I guess in this past June,
because a chaplain is not a bishop.
The church officially announced that it had approved the centralized endorsement of all chaplains, including female chaplains. But you're right. I mean, they're not a bishop or anything like that, but a chaplain is sort of seen as one that presides. And so, cool that we can have chaplains that are female that can preside over meetings and stuff for non-Mormon events. Kind of goofy that they are somehow not able to do anything at the pro LDS stuff. I don't know, like, I don't even know that I'd want it, but it's weird that they're like, yeah, no, this is totally good for everybody else, just not for us. Is that weird to you? Am I misspeaking?
Well, it's totally weird it's not for us. What's not for us?
Yeah, well, like, from a chaplain standpoint, a chaplain is not just a teacher. I mean, they are a teacher to some degree, but they're also like they lead the meeting. They preside at the meeting, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm a chaplain, I pull everybody together and start our service.
Well, the question. Okay. What I'm not clear about though is does the female chaplain only work with female soldiers?
No.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
No. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's totally cool. Totally cool for.
It was war. Anything goes.
Anything
goes in wartime.
Here.
We've got some other things, but Al, I saw Meet the Mormons over the weekend.
Oh yeah, well,
you've seen it. You saw it way back in that screening during Education Week, right?
I did, but then I saw it again over the weekend
to go
as well.
See it?
I went on. I think it was Friday.
You caved to the pressure,
sure did, Jeff.
Mm-hmm. And here's the funny thing: we were reminded by Elder Holland that it was not a commandment to see Meet the Mormons. But it also couldn't quite help but feel like a commandment to see Meet the Mormons with how much it was I don't know how your ward and stake were, but we had messages from the stake president all kinds of stuff, like so many reminders to go see this film. I felt like it was in many ways my moral duty to go see Meet the Mormons. And it's fine because at least the money's going to the Red Cross after they pay for it. But I don't know, did you feel that way at all? I really felt like, even though they say it's not a commandment, it very much felt like there was an expectation there. Like, why would you not go to this, guys? Come on.
No, I didn't feel that way at all.
Good for you in Utah, because it felt that way here. So many emails.
But I did go and see it. What did you think of the actual movie?
It was fine. I described it as cotton candy. It was nice and sweet to take down, but nothing but air. Didn't fill me up. Just, it was there. From a movie making standpoint, the structure of it was a bit weird to me. I love Jenna Kim Jones. I mean, we've had her on the show before. Jenna's great, but I don't understand why she was there. Like,
but
it didn't need a narrator. That's the thing. It was oddly structured from a narrative perspective. Like, first we have the typical hackneyed Times Square stuff of, hey.
No, now you're being goofy. If it's a documentary sort of thing, which is what they were going for, you need a narrator. You need somebody that sort of ties it all together.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, maybe like a narrator itself is fine, but I guess I get tired as a Mormon for the classic time. This is already done in American Mormon too. The Times Square scenes where we stop people. This is the crossroads of civilization. We ask them questions about Mormons, and they all think goofy things about Mormons.
They still don't know. Yeah, no, that was the funny part.
I'm tired of that, though. I feel like in the post-Mitt Romney era, most people think that Mormons are pretty normal folks. They might not know our theology, but this movie this wasn't about addressing Mormon theology. It was about showing how Mormons are just like you and me, except more remarkable, maybe.
Honestly, 10 out of 10 people you stop on the street in D.C., how many are going to have an intelligent view or understanding of Mormons?
D.C. would not be a fair representation because Mormons are overrepresented here. But
New York.
I don't.
Were they weighting it heavily, or was it like every other person was like, yeah, I don't know.
No one knew, and we're used to that. But we always play to that angle. Like, that's our thing. And so we make an entire movie that says that, because the main thesis was what makes 15 million Mormons tick. That was what it was all about. And I enjoyed it, but what I took away at the end was that the same things that make us tick are just what make all good people tick. And and I guess if that's the purpose of it, to show that, like, hey, the things that matter to Mormons also matter to the things that matter to you and me also matter to Mormons, right? We're all part of the big happy family. And that's fine, and that's why it's more of a PR effort than a missionary one. But I don't know. I mean, and it's fine because it's Meet the Mormons. It's meet 6 different individuals who are Mormons, and their faith has played some kind of role in the story we're going to tell.
That continues to be the PR focus of the church, is that, look, everybody, we're normal, right? So yeah, I mean, that may be an element of like let's talk about some of the I don't know, like I don't even know what I would want if it were my job to be a missionary for the church, which it has been in the past. The things that I focus on are typically the restoration, but that's not things that people are like actively curious about.
Oh,
and
yeah,
trying
I agree.
to go and find. And so you kind of have to make it cotton candy and sugar coated.
But are people actively curious about whether Mormons are normal? Whether Mormons can be football coaches and kickboxers? Like, is there is that?
Yeah, I think there's an element of like Mormons aren't. I'm not like, I don't know any Mormons, or Mormons can't do all this other stuff, right? Like, those are the guys that are just the Amish. So I mean, pieces of that. The other thing that you and I were discussing earlier was maybe this is a play. I mean, I've often thought that this was kind of a weird fit for a mass movie theater market. And it is kind of a weird fit for a movie theater. It's weird to walk out of a movie theater feeling good after a movie instead of feeling like scared or angry.
Well, this has been a good year at the box office in general for faith-based films. There have actually been a lot of Christian films that have come out.
Is Heaven Real and all that kind of stuff?
A lot of good stuff's come out. Also, of interesting note, I had a source this weekend notified me that a lot of this is actually because the church really wanted to get this up on Netflix, Amazon's Prime and stuff like that. And which makes sense, because the moment this was announced, I thought to myself, why isn't this just on Netflix? This screams Netflix. But in all reality, it's because they won't touch it unless the church actually gives it a theatrical release. It needs some kind of a pedigree for them to mess with it. So that was kind of it. So that's one of the real reasons why we have it out there. So we're trying to make the most of it while it's in theaters. It did do very well. I'm not going to knock that. And its numbers are hilarious because it made a lot of money well, for a documentary on 300 screens, and usually Sundays drop box office wise, but being a thing aimed at Mormons, it dropped like 80%, which was a crack up. Like nobody went and saw it on Sunday, which means non-Mormons aren't really watching it, at least not yet. We'll see what happens. So it was okay.
It's a phenomenal movie to take a friend to.
I hope so, but like unlike the Joseph Smith film, which I could watch again, I don't really care if I ever see Meet the Mormons again.
Yeah.
But it was okay.
But I would, like, if I had 3 buddies that were curious about the church, it'd be a great thing to take them to and then have a chat about it after.
Sure, and that works too.
Great.
That looks good. Anyways, I know you got to go, Al, so let's tie it off there.
Jeff,
Folks, go to thisweekinmormons.com. Email us, contact at thisweekinmormons.com.
Facebook us, This Week in Mormons, or Instagram at The Real Twim.
No, Instagram is at This Week in Mormons.
Oh, Twitter is at The Real Twim.
Yeah.
We should have done that the same somehow.
I probably should have made them the same. It's just because Twitter limits their handle lengths, so we can't.
What can you do? What can you do?
Nothing. And YouTube at Twee Mormons. So we're not good at this whole synergy thing. Too many names.
No, we're all over the place. Yeah, but we like it. We're excited that you're here with us.
But we hope you'll listen in, and we always appreciate your feedback. Love your emails. Happy to read them on air. Love your reviews as well. Happy to read those if they're worth it. Okay?
Yeah, if they're good.
All right.
Anyway,
Al,
see you, everybody.
Go be of service, folks. We'll talk to you later, okay? Have a good time. This Week in Mormons signing off.
Everything's about Mormons.